Okay, so online with me, I got Jennifer and Troy, Tim,
Painter.
and they've got passed down to them an exciting artifact that I think is pretty exciting because I'm always excited about out-of-place artifacts, and this seems to be one of them. And so with that, Jennifer, take it away. Tell me about this artifact you got, how you got it, and a little bit about it.
It has been given to me by my father, and it was given to him by my grandfather on my mother's side. My father had gotten sick, very sick, and he had been giving, family heirlooms to his children, and I happened to receive this tablet. This is back in the early 1990s when he was sick, and had given that to me. But that being said, he did not give me any information along with it. And I was a lot younger and didn't really realize what I had in my hands. And so nothing was asked, and there's no hard paperwork on this or any information on it. But what I do know is that from what we've gotten the study so far, we have an approximate date. What did he say? Between 4,000 and 6,000 years old. And there's more than one story on it. But to get back to where it came from, again, it is my grandfather had given it to him. And my grandfather on my mother's side was very good friends with Wyatt Earp. The reason I bring him up is because he had given it to my father, but my grandfather and Wyatt Earp had mining camps in Arizona together when they were friends and colleagues. And because of all the research we've done so far, we're thinking that it might have been then that the tablet was given and maybe found, because it, they had a lot of stuff come out of the Grand Canyon.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
We're hoping that getting this tablet out there, that maybe we can see if there might be somebody or that can figure out, a little bit more and help us, because there's so much to it, and there's more than one story on it too. Our colleague Joe, who is helping us with trying to transcribe it, has stated that there is more than one story on this tablet, on the front and on the back, which is very interesting. And actually, he found something just the other day by looking at it differently. He found another, I think, a figure on it. Yeah. He was saying something about a ritual on it. So that's kind of interesting that we kind of keep finding things on it. The tablet was also transcribed by another colleague, a man in Iraq. And I do have some information on it that he did. It's a little bit hard to decipher because he is from Iraq, and it's he doesn't know much English, I don't think, but he had gotten quite a bit of story off of there from what Joe had gathered, what information he could off of this tablet, and this gentleman that I knew. They both had the same information, and so it was nice seeing that.
So they both, Joe and this guy from Iraq, came up with the same kind of, what they thought it said.
Yes. And basically there was, I think there was something about like a list that had almost like not a grocery list, but back in the day, we're talking 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, when there was some kind of a list on the rock that had it had named so many sheep, I think, and then it had, like I was telling you, it had a figure on there clearly giving offerings, and then on the other side there is what looks like a ritual. I don't know if it's a animal ritual or just a food, but that was just recently found out. But yeah, there's some interesting things on it, and I know Joe has gotten one side done and is working on the other. So we're waiting to get that completed, and kind of excited about that.
So let me ask you about this rock. Is it a rock? Is it a clay tablet? Is it a
That's the question of the year here, because actually Joe had said to me, he goes, the one thing we aren't completely sure about is it feels and acts like a rock. But I was told that with this, you can't carve.
This has been fired. There is fingerprints on each side of it where the person was holding it. So it has to be a clay tablet.
Yeah.
So, not just for size, and so it looks like it's kind of squared.
Yes.
Yes, and it is just, this is the true size here. It's very little. There is no cracks or chips at all in this.
Perfect condition.
It is, and you can see the fingerprints in the sides of the person holding it, writing the story. It's very interesting.
So it probably is some kind of a clay tablet or something like that. Then
it has been fired.
Okay, and then so, you saying that your grandfather had some mining claims with Wyatt Earp, and possibly it could have. I mean, you don't really know. Their mining claims were near the Grand Canyon. It could have come out of one of these mines somewhere. I mean,
we don't know, and that was kind of, I had talked to some other family members, and that's kind of what we were coming up with, because due to the fact that they had found some things in Arizona, and I don't know.
I wish we knew more.
We were hanging every little bit of information that we have, which isn't much, but that'd be really interesting to know really where it did come from, but that's what we've got.
So that's interesting to me that Wyatt Earp. I mean, I haven't really studied Wyatt Earp, so I really don't know his history. I just watched the movies,
right.
that he was a sheriff down in Tombstone. So I really didn't know that he had mining interest. Do you know, was he out there mining with your grandfather, or he just had some interest in it and your grandfather did all the mining, or?
I don't know. I don't know. I know that they were very close friends. My grandfather was pallbearer for Wyatt Earp's funeral. And, so I do know that they were very close. And I don't know about the mining camps. I know that they had them, and they owned them together, but I don't know how they were involved, how much they were involved themselves. But
so obviously it must have been important enough to your grandfather to pass it down to your dad, and for your dad to pass it down to you. Just sad we don't have the real history of really 100% where it come from or how it was found or anything like that. That would be exciting, but it is what it is. It's here, and for the excitement to me is the possibility that it did come from the Grand Canyon area, and if that's true, is it tied with these the Grand Canyon Egyptians that are written about in that 1909 article in the Phoenix Gazette talking about Kincaid finding this stuff? Is this part of that? And if this was found, I wonder how many others little pieces of clay tablet like that have been found that we don't know about, So, man, I really appreciate you coming forward with it, even though we don't know 100% what it is. It's still kind of exciting that that it was important enough to your grandfather and your dad to make sure it got passed on down.
Exactly. And I tell you, as time goes on here, because Joe is still very proactive and working really hard and deciphering, which takes quite a bit of time. We will give you updates if you'd like, and
cool.
As so that way we can kind of grow together, and hey, maybe we'll actually complete the story. And I do have a couple of family members that are looking into some paperwork and possibly about the mining and a little bit more on that. So maybe we'll come up with more, information as we go. So, yeah.
Cool. So I know that talking with Joe, kind of some of his translation that he was coming up with, he thought it was talking about maybe some kind of a little bit of a, there's a lot of different things going on with this, but he thought that maybe it was also talking about an underground cavern, about a kind of a mapway or something to where to go inside this cavern. Also, like you said, the sacrificing, the things like that. So there's a lot packed onto just that little teeny,
It's
you know.
amazing.
Yes, and again, there's more than a few stories on there, but I'm thinking, and we can all cross our fingers that maybe once it is completely deciphered, that there may be more information on there as to where it did come from, and that will kind of put this some more
Yeah,
pieces together,
for
So
sure.
we're just like, come on, Joe, get it done. No,
What what
he's
made
working.
what made you get excited about this when your dad gave it, and how long have you had it, and what got you excited and motivated to try and figure out what this is?
Well, I I was it was given to me when I was quite a bit younger, as I had stated. And when you get things that are, when you're younger from your parent, what is this? I mean, how
Yeah.
we act, teenagers or young 20s is where I was, I think. But I had just, and looking at it and talking with my husband about it, and we really just started wanting to know about it,
Yeah, we're very interested.
and going from family member to family member, come on, please, somebody give us some information about it. So, but, we're just excited at this point. Well, I don't know. I really want to know what it is and what it says. And if we can figure it out, it'll be awesome.
So I'm curious. You said that your father was giving away the kind of the family heirlooms before he passed away, and you got that. What other things? Is there any other interesting things that was given away to some of your other siblings, or that you know of, or?
Nothing like that.
Nothing like this. I do know that there was Wyatt Earp's gun was auctioned. It was in my mom and my uncle and my aunt. They all had it was in their possession, and they went to a big auction and they had that auctioned off.
Wow.
Made quite a bit, but that was in our family as well. That it was a very, very nice, expensive gun. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was something that did happen.
So back to Wyatt Earp. Do you know the story of how your grandfather became friends with Wyatt Earp? What their, other than the mining activities, what other association?
I don't. I actually don't know the story behind it. Now that you say something, I'd like to find that out. I never even asked how they became
Yeah,
friends.
that'd be interesting. Just for your own family history, that'd be interesting to know.
Exactly. I mean, it. Yeah. I'm going to get some of that information. That would be really neat to have. If there's anyone out there, no, I'm kidding, has ever seen anything like this, raise your hand. And no, we would be interested in getting your input, anyone, on this very unique tablet that I have inquired. And there might just, by you doing this, Terry, might be that one person that can get in there and just be like, oh, whatever. That would be great, and we'll just get it out there and see what we get.
Well, not only that, but if there's anybody else that has found or been given from the family any other tablets like this, from the Grand Canyon or any other place around, man, contact us. We'd like to know about it. See if it matches up to the same as this one, and and do some more research on it.
Exactly.
On the phone with me, I got J.B Elston, who took a lot of time and deciphered this tablet that ended up in Jennifer's family. And so, JB, tell me about how you heard about this, and then your conclusions of what you think it is and what it might be related to. And then I want to know how and why first, and how you deciphered this. So with that, hit it.
Okay. I figured I'll just jump right into this specific to this artifact stuff, and if you want to get more into the how I deciphered it, we'll do that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty involved. I don't want to bore anybody.
Yeah.
Because it took me a few years to be able to figure all this stuff out. Okay, so basically around I got on Facebook about 2014 to research, and about 2015 I was introduced to, I'll just say it's some Japanese tablets, ancient Japanese tablets that somebody, since I have a background, since I grew up in Japan, I went to school there and learned how to write there every day for 6 years. And so basically, I had a background in writing Japanese, or studying a certain type of the writing. And anyways, I was rapping in about the end of 2019. It was, I believe, October maybe of 2019. I was wrapping up had about a 5-year project, and I had, I was running groups on Facebook, and I had my own little writing group with a couple thousand, 2,500 people or something like that.
So this was for the ancient languages, right?
Yeah, exactly. And basically, I studied Vincan, Chinese, Japanese, Minoan, Runic, Ogham, Celtic, ancient, the European, that's the Vincan, and Sumerian is my main forte. Is I'm kind of an amateur Sumerologist, so I'm coming at things from a pretty traditional angle of, as far as Sumerian, but I found out many years ago, and this is a big part of my research, that the Vinca were writing the same exact letters that showed up in Iraq, like 5,000 years ago. So that same writing was in Europe, like at least 2,000 years before that. So basically, some migration of the people occurred, I believe, and they took their language with them. But so it's all pretty intertwined. I'm looking at some of this as Atlantean type writing, and some of it is the Oriental type. I look at it as Lemurian or the Mu type writing. And my basic theory, which is, it's open to, it's just a theory. I can improve on it, and it's not set in stone. But my theory as of now is that for a time, for trade purposes, and just for global communication, they combined some of the Oriental type, the Lemurian letters, with the Atlantean type, the more Sumerian Egyptian type letter, the type, and that was the global language. Was a mix of two types of letters, and that's what I'm seeing on this tablet. And I've been studying this for like 5 years, and I have tons of charts and to back all this up. And basically, I was working for Facebook. I looked at it like for free for community service. I mean, anyways, it was end of 2019. I was contacted by Jennifer, and she joined my group, and I remembered her picture, and from when she messaged me a couple weeks later, I was like, oh, I remember when she joined a couple weeks ago. And she was really, really polite. She said, would you mind looking at this artifact that I have? And, she said nobody had been able to help her, tell her anything about it in 16 years. And they didn't know anything about it. And this is kind of my specialty. What I love is ancient Sumerian tablets. So basically, I was like, send it over. And I mean, man, I was just shocked because I'd never seen anything just like this. And I showed it to my group, and they were pretty much speechless. I mean, I had one friend that I was working with, and she had some good insight into it. She's one that saw that it was a ritual. I use her term, ritual, but that's what it is. She's really a smart Sumerologist, and she's the one that realized that it couldn't be Sumerian, most likely because it glazed. And she said, well, this is not Sumerian because it's glazed, and Sumerians never used any glaze. And yet we hear about in North America, they did use glaze, and that's in that Arizona Gazette article that Kincaid says everything he saw was glazed.
And so for those who don't know about that article, that's talking about, it says the Egyptian or the Oriental type people all the artifacts that they found in the Grand Canyon, that people think that the Smithsonian whisked away and hid it deep dark in their dungeons, and we'll never get to see it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what a lot of people think. Anyways, so that's what interested me about this tablet, is if it could be tied in with that. So, okay, sorry for interrupting you. Keep on going.
No, you're great. But we actually sent this tablet, and it was right around when COVID had hit, and we I had Jennifer send this off to the Smithsonian. Or not the actual item, but the photo of it and some information about it. And we got no response. So, but I covered my tracks there.
Yeah.
But like I saw in one of your videos, this one guy said, "Look, they don't care what we do because officially this stuff doesn't even exist."
Right.
So, I mean, I just wanted to get it documented for his historical sake, and I followed that story, for many years now, of maybe 15 years at least, and through one of David Hatcher Childress's books.
As far as I know, he's kind of the first one that brought this Grand Canyon deal to light, kind of for the
right.
For the public.
He kept that story alive, man, and I totally think this it had to come from Grand Canyon cave system. More than there's small chance it didn't, because there's not this type of writing is only recorded in in that newspaper article. Like we were just talking about the. Can I read those two little quotes real quick?
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the related to the tablet. Okay, this is from the first article. From the first beginning of the article from 1907. Remarkable finds indicate ancient people migrated from Orient. The latest news of the progress and explorations is what is regarded by scientists as not only the oldest archaeological discovery in the United States, but one of the most valuable in the world. Blah, blah, blah. And it says, if the theories are born out of the translation of the tablets engraved with hieroglyphics, the mystery of the prehistoric peoples of North America, their ancient arts, who they were and whence they came, will be solved. Egypt and the Nile and Arizona and the Colorado will be linked by a historical chain running back to ages which stagger the wildest fancy of the fictionists. So they were apparently going to release this information, or once they deciphered some of this writing and stuff, it's never happened. And I believe that I'm a disclosure guy as far as UFO disclosure and all types of truth. I'm a truth disclosure, and I don't, I'm not going to do anything to harm my country. But I honestly don't think anybody's going to want to go to war over us over the Grand Canyon. And if they do, we'll crush them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyway, here's another line: the hieroglyphics. Okay. On all the urns, on the walls, over the doorways, and tablets of stone, which were found by the image, are mysterious hieroglyphics, the key to which the Smithsonian Institute hopes yet to discover. These writings resemble those found on the rocks about this valley. The engraving on the tablets probably has something to do with the religion of the people. And they continually refer to them as hieroglyphics, which just means picture writing. Basically, they're little pictograms, and they're not arranged like in sentence form. Like there's not like 4 or 5 of them in a row. They're usually like kind of in isolation, or you know what I'm saying? These are the symbols. But I could go over that. What were you going to say?
So I'm just going to say, what was your interpretation of this one tablet then? What did you figure that it meant, and what did it have to deal with?
Yeah, okay. Well, first it took me a couple weeks to sketch it out, and, before I really had any conclusions, I wanted to sketch it, because that gives me a good idea of what they were trying to do.
And you're an artist, so you was able to get a pretty accurate sketch of it, huh?
I'm a pretty good artist, yeah.
Okay.
I've got a good eye for copying things really well, so I don't know if you want to call it, but, I come from a pretty artistic, I have a pretty artistic sister. But yeah, I've had pretty good luck lately with some my work, my tablets. I've basically solved linear A, man, which is one of really big deal, but I don't want to get into that right now. But I'm wanting to get history rewritten, at least Wikipedia changed, you know. But okay, I've identified personally on the I call it side A, is the side with the woman in the central portion standing with her arms raised. That's what I dubbed that side A. And then I have written under there, this side A shows a ritual going on. There is a figure from Babylonian history, Awanas, which is a fish man, and I say Ceberosis. I could go on about that, but it's basically would indicate Enki or some type of Anunnaki worship going on in a ceremony form. Now, some of the glyphs that I'm seeing around here, starting in the left-hand corner, it's a classic Sumerian letter. It means great man or Lugal sometimes. It's that first glyph in the left-hand corner, and then next to that you have like an angel, and these are Shang type, sort of Chinese looking, but it's Sumerian, but you know it's also global writing, so it's probably found everywhere, was the same at that time. And then under that I found a little map section, and it seems, I can't say anything for sure yet because I'm still working on this, but it definitely seems like a map area and it seems like it's showing go underground and to the left, and that's the way the indicators seem to be pointing. There's a glyph that I can pretty well identify. It's a letter A. It looks like a letter H, like a capital letter H. And that is, it's a word that's still used in some countries, and it's in a dictionary. It's called kusa in the language I know, and it means grass or turf. And this letter fell on my radar studying the Japanese tablets, and it's numbered and everything. It's a very common letter. And it always means grass or turf, so that's ground level. And that led me to look at this scene, and that H sign is right above the ritual scene. So I'm like, okay, that looks like it's an underground ritual there. And this is before I even considered that it was probably from the caves. And let's see. Let me just go over some of these glyphs I have. I have the grass turf, and then under that there's a moon, the symbol for moon, and then there's a little cross underneath it, which I'm not sure what that means. And then there's three little lines, and that means river. That usually means a river when it's three vertical lines in a row like that, and one of them's a little longer than the other two. So I'm imagining it's showing, it's trying to show that's an outdoor scene. There's some Sumerian type letters. It's very much looks right off a Sumerian tablet, right about where her hands are extended to. So I want to double check on the meaning of that, but that's definitely Sumerian. And Sumerian's been translated, so I just need some a little bit better knowledgeable people than myself. I'm just amateur. But something I did find is that double T. It looks like a capital T with an extra vertical line in it. That usually means thousands of people in the area. And if you look on the B side, that's in a little right-hand corner. It shows that little double T with a little enclosure around it, like a three-sided enclosure covering it. So to me, that translates as thousands of people inside an enclosure. I mean, it's if you can see that glyph, it's in the right hand corner. It's in the bottom right hand corner of the side with the ant person and the pharaoh. It's got it's got that little double T with an enclosure around it. So then I have okay, we got into the directionals. Okay, I see a sign in the upper left-hand corner of the A side. We're still talking about the side with the ritual. I see a sign that's called Moku, or the sign for eye, or like seeing. That looks like the sign for eye. It's kind of like a box with two lines through it, so it's segmented into three boxes. That's a sign for eye, or some type of something related to vision. And then that looks like another river sign next to it, which I imagine would be the Colorado River, since this is found supposedly within a couple 100 miles of the Grand Canyon. So then we have a priestess right in the far right, and she's wearing a fish robe. And then you have that Enki, and then there's another symbol in between the woman and the fish man, and it means hand, but it can have several definitions according to me. I found that it matches the symbol for hand, but it can have it's marked number. I've got all this catalog. Then there's a sign for sun. Looks like a sign for sun. Is right behind the priestess's head, on the one that's wearing the fish robe. It looks like she's got the sign for sun right behind her head, which could mean she's, a sun goddess or something. Very possible, because sun worship was kind of very common, as you probably know.
Yeah.
But sun worship is the ancient religion basically for a long time, and which I hadn't really thought about that until now. But anyway, it just occurred to me. And then one more glyph on the front that I can point out. It's like a little box with a cross in it, and then it's got like a kind of a T on top. So just the box with the cross in it by itself, that means rice paddy or field. And I'm thinking that line above it means it's covered. So theoretically, inside they would have to be growing using hydroponics. So it seems like that's indicating they had a food source in this area. And then finally I found a dwarf that looks like the dwarf is sketching this scene. The dwarf is over by the map section on the far left in the middle. And it looks like he's sitting there you can see his face and profile and arms and a long nose. And it looks like he's sketching this scene out. And I think it's maps showing where this area is. I could be wrong, but honestly, that's what I think. After and it took me months before I kind of put it all together.
So you think then that this is talking about possibly not 100%, but that this could be talking about the Grand Canyon caverns, the Egyptians or the Orientals that was in there, and it's talking about. I
really do.
Religious ceremonies and then talking a little bit about it. What's interesting to me, if this was found there in the Grand Canyon area, I wonder if there's other pieces like this that other people have found and they just don't know. Maybe they assume it's just Native American or something like that.
Now, the interesting thing is, Jennifer will be able to tell you more about this. So it's just like a little sideline here that, but she has a long history in that area with her family, extended family, in Arizona. And her great-grandfather, I believe, who's the one that originally had this artifact, used to be good friends and partners with Wyatt Earp. I believe it possibly ended up in his possession. Like if it had made it out of the, I'm sure there's more of them hidden somewhere. Okay, we already talked about that. But I bet there's probably some other ones floating around and people just didn't know where to take them, or I've been ignored consistently since 2019 over it. People will say they want to look at it, and then they'll just say, quit calling us back or not call us back. And, it's like, look, I wanted to get it documented for history. and I want to, preferably I would have liked to seen it get placed in a museum, but I'm just like, man, this is taking up my last 2 years because I was injured and couldn't research anything else, and I'm just sitting here thinking and I'm pondering on this, and I'm not done with my translations. Okay, honestly, I've got more. I've still got about several glyphs, but I found like well over 20. I'd say 20 to 30 symbols on there, and they're all, Sumerian or Egyptian based, you could say.
So you said that there was kind of a map on it. Is it like a map of a cave system? Is it a full map, or is it kind of been broken off like this was part of a bigger tablet at one time, or can you tell? Or
yeah, that first symbol that you see in the first small symbol on the left edge.
uh-huh.
It's a Japanese, or it's a common Oriental symbol, and that, but it's got, I believe that's a north, south, east, west symbol. It's like kind of like a cross shape, and it shows northwest. No, I mean, it shows up, down. The 7 directions is north, south, east, west, up, and down. That's the directions indicated by that. So, and then there's 2 little symbols under that seem to show something, go underground and kind of to the right or to the left. See the way the letters are curved. They're curved to the left and indicating underground scene. And I saw a couple glyphs on the front that I was interpreting as thousands of people in the area, and I'm not sure if that translation is right, but that was before I thought that it was in the Grand Canyon. I thought it was mound builders.
Oh.
Or something, because I've studied mound building culture quite a bit, and but see, the thing is, they're not supposed to be any Sumerian writing or anything, in North America. So, and this is the only place I have found that described this type of stuff, and the imagery it's got the ant person and the pharaoh on it.
So
that matches the local lore.
I was going to say, tell us what's important about the ant person.
Yeah, the ant person is at the center of this B-side at the bottom, and it's certain things are visible from different angles on this tablet. It's very unique and layered, but you can make out this guy, and what their importance is to Hopi legend, and Hopi's. And I'm just learning on this stuff. On bringing it closer to home, but the Hopis had a legend that the ant people saved them by taking them into the Grand Canyon. On the last 3 Earth catastrophes, and including presumably the flood,
and taking them underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last time they came out, they had the people of the 1 heart and the people of the 2 hearts. And so they had kind of a division, and the people of the 1 hearts escaped on a world tree. Their leader managed to, so there may be some more still underground. But that's the Hopi legend. I just, found that yesterday or something. I mean, it's a lot of legend about this. But, they owe their survival to the ant people. And there is one right. And it was, when I was sketching it was giving me like chills for hours and a couple days. The more I sketched it, I couldn't deny it. My research is just completely open-minded. I don't have any preconceptions really, or I try not to, and I'm just follow where it goes. But I'm like, oh my God, that's ant person. Ant person is basically looks like, from the pictures, and it looks like it's just a typical gray type alien with the really big head and big eyes, a humanoid, very humanoid looking, though. And in the ant person's case, they have antennas, and these are like curved, floppy antenna, on the top of this being's head. And then next to him in the left corner, you have the pharaoh. And kind of showing to me like who's running the show in that area. It's like we've got pharaonic leadership going on here apparently, and then there's some type of alien. Obviously the alien or ant person is a big picture. It's a big picture on there, man. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm just interpreting as best I can, man. But it's it's work in progress.
Right.
And what I'm doing is I consider the scientific theory is what they do is they develop a theory and they go with it until they find new evidence, and then they improve and have a new theory. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just have the best possible theory. It could have possibly not. It possibly could have been just dropped off on a boat. The Phoenicians could have dropped it off, and I mean, we just honestly don't know. But I think it could have either been dug up in those silver mines we were talking about. And she has a list that she'll give you of their land claims if you're interested.
Yeah.
So that would narrow that down. If we could find out what type of stone it is, I would love that because that would be we could possibly trace it to make verify it came from North America.
Right.
That'd be pretty easy, I think. But I'm not sure what the material is even. But it's obviously in really good condition. I estimated it at 7,000 years old. Could be more, could be less. Not much. I would say at least 5,000 or 6,000 years old, but minimum.
And that's because of the language.
That's because of how old the writing is on it. And there's two forms. There's in the background. If you get you a good picture and zoom in on it, you can see the ancient writing is more faint in the background. And then they have a cuneiform type, which is cuneiform just means wedge shaped. And that's because when they started using the clay tablets, they used reeds from the river, and they have a triangular shape on it, and thus cuneiform was born. So you had some of that triangular type writing on there superimposed over. So it's like it's like a painting that they just like maybe that original stone was so hard to create, that rather than try to create another stone, they just wrote some more on top of it.
Mm.
I mean, it looks like there's 2 or 3 layers of writing and pictures on there, but it's really intricately intertwined. So it needs, I'm open to suggestions and ideas, man. I'm not the final word on it, but I'm gonna have to see it in person before I can judge too much. But yeah, I think the back of it may be show a map area too. I'm gonna work on that for you. But anyway, what now?
So for you to even decide to tackle looking at ancient languages, cuneiform, Sumerian, all this stuff, and you got to be kind of a brainiac and for even trying to attempt that stuff, and that'd be a lot of research that you got to do to try and figure it out. So what got you interested in doing that?
Okay, I've always been interested in the similarities of languages. I grew up overseas, and I noticed a lot of languages had similar words and this and that. So I was a weird kid, man. And when I was like 4 years old, I remember reading about Linear A, which is the original Greek writing. It's the Greek, and everything is spawned from the Minoan writing, and it was never been deciphered. And I remember that interested me so much when I was like 4 or 5. It was one of my parents' books, Reader's Digest book, table book. I was like, that's so cool, and so I've wanted to figure out Linear A since I was, I'm 52 now, so 40-something years, and they haven't made any progress on it because they don't know the source language. In order to solve a language, a dead language, you need to know the source language. Okay, and I figured out the source language is Sumerian. I mean, ancient Sumerian and ancient Egyptian, and I've compared notes with other people, and they agree. You know, it's they're, you know, I'm just that's always been my goal is to solve linear A, and that's one of my biggest projects. But Megalithic Maiden was a research partner of mine, J.J. Ainsworth. She introduced me to these Japanese tablets that were needing translating. They're sitting in the Okinawa Prefectural Museum, and 12 of them. And the key search words would be Okinawa Rosetta tablets, or the Yonaguni tablets, or, you know, Yonaguni writing. So it's really hard to find on American search engines, and we had kind of a little group of us working on it. Like, you know, I had a partner that's amazing researcher. She was in like Bosnia area, you know, of Europe, Eastern Europe.
Uh-huh.
And she logged on to some Japanese website, or she got onto a Japanese search engine. And so I was going through Croatian search engines. I was going through a Japanese search engine that had gone through a Croatian search engine to find all these pictures of all these 12 tablets. Yeah, it took me like 2 years to find them all and to sketch most of them all out. There's a couple that I couldn't find big enough pictures to sketch them. This one French guy went over there just to sketch them all, because there was no pictures of them all on the internet, and they don't want to talk about it much, but they do say that a lot of it was solved through Sumerian, and that they're 5,000 to 10,000 years old. Now I look at these tablets, and my first thing I noticed was, how come there's Christian crosses all over it? And then I started noticing that I recognized a lot of these letters on there were just basic letters that all kindergartners have to learn in Japan. You know, and then first, you know, there's a certain number of letters that they have to learn by each grade.
Uh-huh.
And there's something like 5 or 10,000 characters in Oriental. So, and they go up to 19 strokes per letter, which is ridiculous. I mean, you're talking, you know, that's just torturous, man.
Yeah.
And these ones we're dealing with are like 3 and 4 stroke letters, basically. You know, not nothing too complicated. So, and they are pictographs, and it's, you know, I'm work in progress, but it seemed, you know,
So do you have?
You know, my main thing was I was able to identify this global writing very well, in that matched up perfectly across Europe. You know, specifically Danubian, Vincan, matched up with the Sumerian, Mesopotamian, the Chinese oracle type of the Shang Dynasty, the Japanese Kami-Yoji writing, and the Minoan. It's very similar to linear A. I mean, and then it's very similar to runic, and specifically Scythian. I looked into Scythian runes quite a lot, and it's identical. Scandinavian runes, Hungarian, Norse, Anglo-Saxon runes, and all these are. I'm basing a lot of this research here on L.A. Waddell's books and his old research. He was basically blacklisted because, for whatever reason, you know, he used a word that's, and you know, it was before World War II, if you can imagine, and now they call it Indo-European, if you get my meaning.
Yeah.
But they're a term that he used that was it's not kosher now, and I'm not going to say it, but so that's what I call the Atlantean type, and then you have the Lemurian type, which is, you know, these Oriental symbols, and I can't explain a lot of this, man. I mean, it's very, very deeply mysterious. But what I've been doing lately, Terry, is I've found I got onto Google Earth and was going underseas and finding all these sunken cities. And in a few hours, I'd say I found dozens of sunken pyramid cities all around the world.
Huh.
And just because I knew where to look, man. I mean, that's one of my main research topics is sunken cities.
Cool.
Yeah, and I knew they'd been finding pyramids all around the Azores, which is, that's basically exactly where Atlantis, where Plato was describing that area. So I already knew there was stuff there, and all this stuff is perfectly aligned, man, and you can see it from space. And I just have started zooming in on certain areas around the, Bahamas, and then Jamaica and Cuba, man, and around there even, and the Antilles. Tons of stuff, man. I mean, it's just that's what I've been doing. But there's all around Japan and China and Taiwan. That was all above water, man. They have not huge amounts of buildings under there, and so there's so many pieces missing to the puzzle. That's just this could go back a lot farther than 10,000 years. Like 20,000 or 50,000. I don't know how old writing is, man. I'm trying to be as scientific and stick to the facts, but like I didn't look into the Brewer's Cave writing when I was doing these comparisons, the stuff like the Brewers and but see, I'm really interested in that, and the Crespi writing.
Yeah.
I've documented some of that because there's some good pictures of it, and you can see some artifacts and they've got letter grids on the floors and stuff, and I've pretty good images of them. So I just didn't want to. And the glossal stone letters, anything semi-questionable, I didn't even look into in this 5 years. I just used verified 100% archaeologically accepted ancient languages.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want anybody to be able to pick my stuff apart. Oh, well, that's not a real language or whatever. No, this is all, But when I look at these these cave artifacts, I know they're real. But I would say they're a later form of writing. What is it? The one in Utah is I get them confused. They both start with a B.
Brewer's Cave is in Utah, and Burroughs Cave is in Illinois.
Yeah. Burroughs Cave is interesting, but I'm interested in Brewer's Cave. Okay, more so.
Uh-huh.
And that writing, I saw a video of this guy that did a translation of it. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
But have you? Yeah, I think it was your video. But anyway, it was really interesting, man. I need to find that again. It was I highly recommend that. It was really interesting. He made a little dictionary of, broke it down. That's basically how I do it. I just break everything down in charts, and I keep all the charts separate and then compare them, and it's identical. And, but basically just try to make a little dictionary of this stuff. But that was really interesting, and he said it was a mixture basically of Egyptian and he thought Native American.
Huh.
Like some of the letters they didn't match anything. Like some of the letters I could see, but some of them were just Sumerian, but some of them were different. And I think it was just some Native American writing. And I think that stuff is probably 4,000 years old, more or less. It's pretty freaking old, but it's not as old as this global writing. Yeah. But I'm going to be looking into all that stuff. It's always interesting to me because I consider those legitimate. And the thing about runic is it's much older. They say that it's only 1,000 years old, and that they got runic from the Romans and the Greeks writing. But honestly, what else states, and he was an expert back, he traveled all over back in the 1900s. He wrote books on Tibet and several books on Sumerian, and Phoenician and stuff. And he considered the Phoenicians the progenitors of the Anglo-Saxons of today. So. It all traces directly back to the Sumerian, man. I mean, I've got charts that show Sumerian right next to modern letters, right next to the Viking runes. And so what he said was the Viking runes, they very closely match the original Sumerian letter forms.
Huh.
Like much more closely than the Greek and Roman versions. So they had these. And their legend was that Odin gave them their alphabet. He was nailed on the World tree, and he was given the runes and their meaning, their secret meanings, and you know, in Babylon they were given writing by the fish god. You know, it was Oannes appeared out of the sea and gave them all the trappings of civilization, and you know, writing and medicine and this and that, and how to grow food. And they said after they left, we haven't really figured out anything else good. And you know, Carl Sagan was like this. You know, back in the '60s, before they hushed him up a little bit, he was working with a Russian scientist on a book, and in their book they used that. They said that's some of the best evidence that we have been visited by, you know, and shaped by extraterrestrials, and we believe numerous times over the centuries, over, you know, God knows how long they've been visiting us. Like, but, you know, yeah. So that's the Fishman significance. Is, you know, he was the Babylonian culture bearer, and could be, you know, under the name of Dagon, you know, or could be under the name of Enki, but Enki is associated with the fish robes. Yeah, he's the one with the fish robe priest. You know. So, and that would have been covered up. They you know, they wouldn't want us to know about any of that. So, it's pretty much. I'm looking for answers as much as, you know. I'm hoping if anybody has any criticism, they'll just, you know, hold their tongue and just, you know, help us give us some more information. Because I haven't had any help. You know, I've had a couple people look at it, and they've had a couple of ideas, but. I mean, yeah, if anybody has any ideas, man, it's you know, we'd be glad to get, you know, help any way I can to and clarify it, or, you know, if anybody has any ideas on any other images they could see on there.
Cool. So when I post this video, will you monitor
Yeah.
the comments, yes. And if anybody asks you any, will you correspond with them on the
Absolutely.
I've
got a good bit of. I don't have all my research online, but I've got quite a lot of pictures. So, and you know, I'm happy to share with anybody that's, you know. I mean, I'm completely transparent. Basically, all my stuff is public. So
do you
people can feel free to go to my website. My Facebook page is J.B Elston, Elston. I've got answers. You just have to ask me some questions.
Sounds good. And
yeah, but I appreciate you, Terry. You're the first that's taking it on, man. It's you know, it's some important. I don't know if we'll ever be able to prove where it came from, but I'm willing to try to find out.
Cool. And with that said, JB, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And with that said, that's a wrap.